Blog Talk Radio.
Glad to have you back with us again on Viatorian Voices, our Conversations on the Way, our podcast series in which we get to know a little bit more about members of the Viatorian community, the work that the Viatorians do, and some of the great people involved in that community. Hi, everyone. This is Jim Mitchell, and today we're going to take a quick look at what's happening with, or has happened with, and continues to be happening with Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas. We've had a number of guests from the Las Vegas area. And today, as we're kind of pulling things together here, joining me are two esteemed members, both past and present, of the Bishop Gorman community. First of all, we have Connie Gerber and Kim Martinez. We're going to get to know them a little bit. So first of all, Connie and Kim, thank you very much for being here. It's nice to talk to you both today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice
to be with you.
So
I'm Connie.
And Connie, we're going to start with you. You have a very detailed history with Bishop Gorman. We want to hear about your story, but just give us quickly an overview of the school itself. What's the history of Bishop Gorman High School?
I came to Bishop Gorman High School in 1965, right from college. It was the first time I became acquainted with the Viatorians, and I stayed at Bishop Gorman for 41 years. Bishop Gorman is a wonderful Catholic high school, and at the time it was the only Catholic high school in southern Nevada. The only other Catholic high school was up in Reno, Bishop Minogue. So our population was always strong. Through the years it became stronger and denser until in 2008, I believe it was, Kim can say for sure, the campus was moved to the southwest side of town. It had a very strong population, and it's even growing now, but I think it's probably at capacity. And the Viatorians were superb in their basic provisions for the school, in academics, in faith, in activities, in a welcoming atmosphere for the lay people who were employed there. It was very inclusive.
And we've heard that so many times as we talk to people from the various institutions in the Viatorian community. And Kim, Connie there mentioned, the growth and success. What's the enrollment at Bishop Gorman today?
Yes. We hover at around 1,500. That's our capacity, a little above. I do know we're in our registration mode right now, and currently there have been over 1,600 students accepted, which is a little more than we have space for, but the reality is, as we go through the summer, some of those will drop. But we will be at capacity. We have a waiting list. And I think Gorman has an excellent reputation, but some of that as well has to do with the pandemic and the public school system here in Nevada, and Gorman has such an excellent reputation. We did manage to stay open through the pandemic, so and have classes, other than the first few months, have in-school classes. So, that's what parents were wanting. So,
yeah, what a challenge that has been. We've certainly seen that at other area schools. And I want to just jump back to Connie quickly, because Connie, you mentioned having been there for a number of years. You played different roles, and ultimately, if I understand correctly, became the principal. What was it like being the principal at a Viatorian institution in particular? You mentioned them as educators. How did you work with the Viatorians in running this school?
Well, we worked very well together. At the time, Father Tom Von Barron, when I became principal, was still there as the president. So he was a great mentor in helping me go into that role, learn ins and outs, compartmentalizing, being available in that leadership role, which was very helpful because he left the year after to return to St. Viator High School in Arlington. So always available, though, for advice, interaction, willingness to participate, and yet let the person in leadership go on that role too.
Mm-hmm. And Kim, I cut you off there a minute ago. I know we were talking about the current enrollment and the pandemic and such. Tell us, first of all, what you're doing at the school currently, because you're still a part of the staff there.
Yes, I am, and actually getting ready to start my 28th year. Connie and I were there many years together as well. But I currently work in campus ministry. I've had a few different roles as well. I started as a teacher and then became the activities director. In the last 16 years, I've been the campus minister, and my role is primarily I run the retreat program. And I've done, I think, over 100 since I started.
And you know, it's just so interesting when I get to talk to people from the Viatorian schools and parishes. And Kim, I'll stay with you for a minute because, you know, we heard the geographic location of the school made it unique, being a Catholic institution. We've heard already about the role the Viatorians play, but can you maybe summarize from what you've seen over your 28 years what it is that makes Bishop Gorman unique, and not only just those things that sort of make it a one of a kind, but just the spirit. Can you tell us, is there something about this school that really stands out in your mind?
I think so. For me anyway, and I'm not trying to speak for Connie, but I would imagine she has a similar feeling about this, that when I came to Bishop Gorman, those of us who have worked around Viatorians, the Viatorians actually brought me out. I grew up knowing Viatorians and working with them in other capacities and doing retreats as a teenager, and they actually hired me from Illinois, and I came out. So I already had that relationship, but I think that one of the really unique aspects of our school and our community that the Viatorians gave us was, and continue to do so in our community with lay associates and professed, is really a sense of journeying together, of working together for the same purpose and the same goal. In the school was built in 1954 after a former student from the Viatorians back in Illinois had moved to Las Vegas, and they needed a Catholic high school. So he tapped the Viatorian community to come out and build it. And the Viatorian presence in Southern Nevada is huge because at the time there was only one diocese in the whole state, and it was seated in Reno. So the Viatorians were really, you know, as a religious order, the only ones here. They built the high school. They built 3 or 4 of the grade schools and parishes early on in the city, and really have just such a history there. But I think that if you talk to anybody who knows about Gorman, you'll hear a lot of people who have been there 30, 40, 45 years, which is kind of rare in a high school. But again, I think it goes back to that feeling of being part of a team, being a part of a community where everybody feels valued and like an integral part, you know, it's not hierarchical in the sense that, I take kids back for VYC, and this goes off a little bit every year, and they're kind of surprised we have a bishop who helps serve the food, and the provincial will help, with IT stuff if it's necessary. They're just really a unique group of men who are inclusive and make everybody feel important, honored, valued.
Our conversation goes by quickly here.
That's fine.
Yeah, and Connie Gerber and Kim Martinez from Bishop Gorman High School, one past staff member, one current, are talking with us today on the podcast. And we just never have enough time to cover all the things we want. And I want to talk more about the school, but I'm interested, if I understand correctly, both of you made the decision to become lay associates in the Viatorian community at some point. Connie, let me start with you. Can you talk a little bit about your decision there and what that has meant to you?
It did occur in 2006, and that is the year that I also retired from working so many positions, as you had mentioned earlier, at Bishop Gorman. and brought along so willingly by the Viatorians, who were their great mentors, Father Anderson and Father Bozer, Father Wren, Father Tom von Baron, who were encouraging, and they just were role models and welcoming. And I think when that was my final time there in 2006, Father Tom von Baron and Kim approached me, and others. Father Norbibo, who had passed, was a great friend and mentor. Why, their example, I think, is what was inspiring. And in our conversations and going back and forth about what does this look like, because for us, those were early days of a lay association. What's one going to do? My goal was to increase my faith-based activities. And, you know, Jim, it has done that over and over again. And it's just been something to be associated with, and I would say a continuation of the community of the high school spirit.
And Kim, you also are associate. I'd like to hear from you, but you've talked about working with young people. You talked about Viatorian Youth Congress. It seems to me like as a lay associate, there's just so much exploration that can happen in your faith life. And has that been your experience?
Yes, most definitely. I think a lot of us who are Viatorians there is a result of invitation, of having good relationships with Viatorians, but I didn't realize the extent that it would change my life. I truly feel as a part of this community that I share the charism of working with youth and walking with youth and serving the marginalized and the poor. And, you know, I've had great role models. Connie was my boss for several years and my dear friend, and I love being a Viatorian with her as well. I just see people who are making a difference in our community, who make a difference with students. The Viatorian Youth Congress, for me as campus minister, has been really a great thing to do because it keeps our ministry alive, and it brings new people into, I think, really strong faith journeys. You know, so many kids are searching today, and with BYC, Viatorian Youth Congress, we take high school kids, and that's grown into the young adult ministry, and some of those young adults have now become Viatorian lay associates, and they're ministering in our parishes and our schools and on their own within the community as a Viatorian, and it's amazing to see in a world where so many youth are leaving the church, you know.
So now I'm going to do something very unfair. We have about a minute left, so I'm going to ask each of you a separate question, but if you can summarize, because we've talked about the Viatorians, we talked about Bishop Gorman. What's the importance, what do you see the importance of just Catholic education in our world today? Why is it important for, whether it's the Cristo Rey School, St. Viator, in Arlington Heights, Bishop Gorman, why do we need Catholic education today?
You know, I'll respond to that as a retired person and a grandparent. I see that Catholic education gives young people a structure and a faith-based resource. And as Kim mentioned, in these days, these years, young people, not just high school going into college, but young marrieds, young single people need role modeling. And I believe that Catholic education does that for students, bringing them along and giving them something to come back to if they may not hold on to it through those changing young years.
And Kim, your thoughts before we go?
Sure, that was well said, Connie. Kind of just to add on to that, in my role as campus minister, I think it's a privilege to be in a young adult journey during that period. During high school, those kids are questioning everything, just like their parents. You know, their parents don't know anything all of a sudden. They can't believe something just because their parents told them. They really, as they're developing, they've got to figure out who God is for them and who Jesus is. And if they don't, chances are they won't have a relationship as an adult. And we provide that opportunity. We give them the safe place to ask the questions and to explore their faith. And above all, I think that's the most important thing.
Well, thanks to Kim Martinez and Connie Gerber for joining us today. So much more we can do, so maybe we'll have them back for another conversation. But if you want to learn more about Bishop Gorman High School, it's bishopgorman.org. We appreciate everyone's time and being a part of this, and certainly look forward to sharing the word of the Viatorians in future podcasts. Thanks very much for being with us.